Hey everybody, I'm Seryna Myers, and I create safe spaces for really uncomfortable conversations, essentially. And most recently, I've been having a lot of conversations around anger. I've got a book coming out next year about it. It's something I've spent the last 2.5 years writing about, and an entire lifetime of trying to work with on my own journey. So it doesn't surprise me that we're having a lot of conversations about that right now, particularly after this year, because 2020 has been a year where we've all felt contained, where we didn't really have autonomy, where we didn't have say-so, where we couldn't just do what we wanted and we were restricted. And that causes us to get really agitated, even if we're people who typically kind of just go with the flow. So I asked in my group the other day if people could give me like 3 words of how they would describe their anger. And the words that they came up with were really vivid, but also they kind of like, I really felt for these people. So there were words like cutting, intense, burning, overwhelming. There's a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of disgust, rage and fury, all these hard, intense emotions. And a lot of these people were able to recognize that their anger was valid, but it was still something that they couldn't describe in like a really positive way. And I believe that that's because they haven't yet formed this relationship that I'm talking about with anger. So when I say that I want to set the record straight, the name of this video, I want to talk about the relationship that we have with anger, specifically where we have been conditioned to believe that it's something that needs to be managed, that it's something that needs to be released or transmuted if you're in like the spiritual world. And it's always this othering of anger, as though it's something that's actually not a part of us. We treat it as though it's not something that's not like a natural human emotion, even though it absolutely is. And by doing this, we create this separation so that it's really hard to just be with anger, our own or anybody else's, where we can just be a witness or where we can just experience it and sit in it. And that is really, really hard. And so the record that I'm wanting to set straight here is that when I'm talking about viewing anger as a sacred teacher, I'm not talking about managing it. I'm not talking about getting rid of it or transmuting it or releasing it. I want to have the conversation about how do we sit down and befriend our anger? How do we allow ourselves to get comfortable with being uncomfortable so that we can be with it, particularly our own, but also other people's, provided it's safe to do so, where we can be with it and say, what is the lesson here? What are we trying to learn? Now, when people do have this approach, oftentimes what they do is they try to figure out the lesson while it's still happening. And in doing so, they're almost intellectualizing their experience. And it creates a little bit, again, some of that separation from what you're feeling to what you're thinking. And it doesn't really allow you to feel it fully. I used to even have this in like shamanic journeying, where there would be a part of me that would almost be like narrating or dictating, like I was on a tour bus saying like, and to the left, you'll notice these things are happening. And on the right, you'll notice these things are happening. And it was this way of distracting me from just experiencing it. So what I want to encourage you to do is, yes, not rush to the releasing. Definitely don't try to manage it. It's to be with it and allow yourself to actually feel it. Not judge it. Not shame yourself for having it. Not think that you're any less spiritual because you're in this place. To just be angry. After you've given yourself the space, and you'll know when it's done. Mine often requires a nap at the end, so then it's almost like a factory reset on my brain. After it's done, that's when you're able to say, okay, cool. What did I learn about myself here? Where has this pattern come up for me before? Why am I repeating it? What is this trying to show me? Because the beautiful thing about our anger is it really makes clear what's important to us. It doesn't lie. It doesn't have a filter. It's very, very hot and intense and passionate, and it's rooted in truth. So allowing it to teach you, allowing it to show you what it came here to be and why it's here to be expressed, it really gives you the ability to extract the lessons from it. And when you do that, here's the thing. If you're someone who's doing a lot of inner work and you're on a spiritual path, you get to deepen that journey. You get to know yourself better. You start to recognize your patterns in your relationships. You start to deepen your connection to other people because you are able to hold that space and witness them in the way that you've learned to do for yourself. It's actually a really beautiful tool. For someone who doesn't identify with being on a spiritual path, it's still really valuable for you because you get to know yourself better. You get to learn your triggers. You get to learn how you're going to react in situations so that you're able to also go to the additional step of putting plans in place so that you don't, you have a contingency plan, you know what's going to happen. And so you know what to do when it does, because we are going to get angry. Nobody is going to I shouldn't say nobody. Most of us, 99.99999% of us are going to get angry. There's a few who've managed to somehow rise above, but they are definitely the exception and not the rule. When we have this new relationship with anger, it's not just about building that intimacy with ourselves. It's not just about having a plan so that we know what to do with it when it happens. It's also about being able to have, on a soul level, this next level of expansion. So one of the things that I wrote about in my book is that I believe that when we come into a life, we've got like a laundry list that we came here to experience. And we've chosen this life, particularly as humans at this time, to be able to hit these kind of buttons. And anger is part of that journey. Anger is very revealing. And so it's really part of our soul's expansion, our soul's growth. And it's actually really necessary for us if we let it, if we don't run from it, if we don't abuse it, where we're using it to hurt other people and hurt ourselves and self-destruct. If we can partner with anger, it becomes this beautiful dance. And if you can imagine the first time you start to dance, especially with a partner, it's a bit awkward and a little bit clunky and you're stepping on each other's toes and it's a bit weird. But then you start to figure out each other's rhythm. And then you start to find a way where you can find the right movements and the right cadence to be able to be together. And that's what we're talking about. So the goal for me, when I talk about anger as a sacred teacher, is not to get rid of anger. It's not to live your life somehow risen above like some guru. It is so that you can extract what you can and so that it has purpose and it has meaning, that you can use it as fuel to move yourself forward in other ways so that you can get clarity about the things that are important to you. It is this beautiful revealing tool if we allow it to be. So I'm going to leave you with that little nugget today, my darlings. I hope you are having a beautiful Thursday and we'll be in touch soon. Oh, and of course, if you don't already have it, I have actually created a beautiful guide. It's 22 pages long to give you all the tools that you need to start having a conversation with your anger so that you can start to build this relationship, get to know it, and figure out what it's here to teach you. So I will make sure to put the link to that guide in the description of this video. Okay, have a great day. Take care.